In today's Farm Report, EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy recently spoke to corn growers about the RFS volume requirements. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
The head of the Environmental Protection Agency is urging stakeholders to comment on the proposed volume obligations under the Renewable Fuel Standard. Talking to members of the National Corn Growers Association meeting last week in Washington, D.C., EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy thanked farmers for making their voices heard in the comment process for the rule.
I know RFS matters deeply to corn growers. We know we held a hearing out in Kansas, and I know you knew it because you showed up. Last month you were there in force. And what I want to tell you is this: thank you for being out there. That is why you turn out in force, and that's why your group is here, to make sure that government listens to your concerns. And I appreciate your passion and the commitment you had to make to leave your farms and to go to that public hearing. And I want you to keep doing that. I want you to keep engaging, because I want you to know that despite some overheated criticism, EPA is deeply committed to the RFS.
McCarthy explained why they set the levels for this year and next year the way they did.
You might have heard that we are trying to shrink or kill this program, but the truth is we are committed to growing it. The volumes we've proposed in 2015 and 2016 are designed to bust through any blend wall, even if you don't believe it exists. Our proposed 2016 standard for total renewable fuels is 1.5 billion gallons more. That's almost 10% higher than the actual 2014 volumes. And the proposed 2016 standard for cellulosic ethanol is 6 times higher than what the market produced in 2014. So EPA isn't just promoting growth, we're trying hard to push the envelope.
The EPA chief apologized for the delay in getting the standards proposed, but stressed that she wants to hear from everyone with a stake in the issue during the current comment period.
That's why we went to Kansas City, and that's why I'm here today, to encourage you to keep talking, keep communicating, take advantage of the public comment process, which is open until July 27th. This was a proposal. This was not a final rule. So tell us what you think. That way we'll be able to produce a final standard that is based on all of the best information and data available.
Once again, the comment period for the proposal ends July 27th. Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
Biochar is like charcoal, but instead of putting it in the grill for cooking, it can be used as a soil amendment, with benefits such as helping soils retain water and minerals for plant life and sequestering carbon in the soil. But as Kurt Spokus of USDA's Agricultural Research Service notes,
it's never really been economical to utilize the biochar product in an agricultural setting, particularly at larger scales.
So researchers are studying how biochar works so that specific ways to add value to biochar can be developed.
It has also been seen to improve water holding capacity as well as microbial life in the soil. And the only difficulty with a lot of these end uses are we don't fully understand the mechanisms that are driving these processes. And because of that, we really can't optimize or predict the activity of biochar in the soil yet.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
The Environmental Protection Agency recently finalized its Waters of the United States rule, which defines what waters are covered under the Clean Water Act. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Gina McCarthy came before one of the many organizations that have joined in a lawsuit over implementation of the new Clean Water Rule, which became known to many as the Waters of the United States or WOTUS Rule. Speaking to members of the National Corn Growers Association in Washington, D.C. last week, McCarthy stressed what she has always said about the rule, that normal farming practices remain exempt, and that changes made to the proposal have made that even clearer.
We actually added exclusions for features like artificial lakes and ponds, water-filled depressions from construction and grass swales, just to make it crystal clear that we're not getting in the way of agriculture in this rule. We spelled it all out in black and white.
McCarthy says they even clarified ditches in the final rule.
If I never hear the word ditch again, it'll be too soon, but I'm sure we'll keep talking about it. Because ditches have always been in the law. For some reason, ditches was a word that found its way into the law. So what we have done is, for the very first time, is clearly limit the protection of ditches to those that are constructed out of streams or that function just like the streams that we've identified before, that narrowly would be jurisdictional if they have the ability to carry pollutants downstream. So it specifically excludes most ditches and specifically excludes ditches that only flow after it rains.
However, corn growers questioned McCarthy about provisions in the rule that make small drainage features jurisdictional and require new NPDES permits for pesticide use.
I know you have to use pesticides. We did nothing to expand what was required before. And what's required right now, as I understand it, is if you're actually putting pesticide into a jurisdictional water. In other words, if you have a tributary that runs enough to be a tributary that's not excluded, and it was before and it remains, what you have to do is follow the label requirement.
McCarthy was also asked how the rule will be implemented locally, since farmers are getting conflicting messages from field staff at the state level. And she said the plan is to develop a website that provides uniform answers to questions about the rule.
I know I need to train the field staff. I know we need to work together. That's our responsibility. But the broader responsibility is when one person asks a question, they should get an answer and everybody else should hear it. So if you could work with us to specifically gather the questions that you're asking, that's what we told our staff to do. When you get a question, post the answer.
Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
It was a dip of 2 percentage points in pasture and rangeland rated good to excellent from 65 down to 63. On the flip side, says USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey,
pastures and rangelands rated very poor to poor, up 2 points from 9 to 11%.
The biggest decrease in terms of very poor to poor ratings was in the Northwest.
Oregon, for example, going from 39% very poor to poor a week ago to a current number of 46%. Washington State also browning out, in a sense of the word, going from 28 to 36% very poor to poor. We also see pockets of drought in the south causing concerns. North Carolina leads the southeast at 35% very poor to poor.
Some of the best range in pasture land at this point
stretch from Wyoming eastward through the Midwest and into the Northeast.
Wyoming 86% good to excellent and Wisconsin at 82% good to excellent, making pasture and rangeland conditions exceptionally lush this time of year. For USDA Radio, Susan Carter, Washington, D.C.